Welcome back. Today's the day the engine comes out. A little controversy whether we're going to pull it out the top or the bottom, but thanks to your feedback, I think we're just going to take it out the bottom. We showed you how to get the transmission out, torque tube to do a clutch, pull the bell housing with the engine in the car. There's no need to pull it out through the top. It's going to be a little more work. This way we'll get it out the bottom. Now we don't have the engine brace where we're going to use to remove the subframe and leave the engine in place. I thought we had one, we don't. So we're going to take it out with the subframe and the engine still attached. It should be interesting. Actually, it might be easier because it's going to be a little more balance on the oil pan sitting on the table. We'll show you the table we're going to use. It's awesome. It's probably the best way to do it instead of using an engine crane and lowering it down through the engine bay area. So we're going to start by taking the roll bar out, anti-roll bar, sway bar, anti-sway bar, whatever. The roll bar, anti-roll bar. That's coming out first. Then we're going to go to the power steering pump and then take the rack out completely. We already got the wheels off. You don't need to see that. That's pretty simple stuff. And then we're going to start moving up and finish off the engine compartment, take the wiring harness out from inside the car. The ECU engine wiring harnesses will come with the engine, with the connectors still on them. That's how they come out. It's more modular that way. And we'll go from there. So we're going to start with the bar thingy. These just have a through bolt. You can see these really gnarly bushings. This is the mount that mounts it to the lower control arm. Okay. Dang it. Dang it. We have these really nifty offset ratcheting wrenches. They work good in a position like this. All kinds of tools. All right. These bushings are in pretty rough shape. Wow. It's just mush. Mushy bushings. Is that Yiddish? Mushy. Trying to get the washer off of the bushings. They're stuck. Okay. Here we go. These are bent. I think. No. Anyways. All right. And then the upper links are pretty simple. Just two short 8mm by 125 bolts with a 13 head. The power steering cooler hose is blocking my access to that bolt, so we're going to take that out too, the clamp. That's what's left of an Adele clamp. You see there's no rubber left in it, so all that'll get replaced. There we go. That's out of the way. Dang it. All right, there's one. There. Dang. Okay, there's our sway bar in all its glory. Okay, after picking up our little disaster here, these are the brackets. These go up here with the sway bar linked bracket, and these are supposed to hold the ABS wire. Actually, not ABS. Does this have ABS? No. These are for the brake pad sensors. Yeah. There's supposed to be a big rubber ring on these, and that rubber ring snaps inside the clip here, and that mounts up behind the sway bar bracket. They just rot away and fall off. I don't know if we can find anything like that. We might end up making grommets that'll go back into these nice little holders. There's one on this side too, but see, this one got zip tied because the rubber just rotted away. If you look at your ABS cars, the later cars with the ABS, in the back, the harnesses just disintegrate and the wires are all hanging out. It's the same kind of rubber, I guess. It just disintegrates. I can't even see where it was on that harness. But we'll come up with something something clever that'll go in there. Maybe even 3D print something. We'll see. Okay, next, power steering pump. I was supposed to drain the reservoir, but I didn't. That's okay. We'll just let that run out. So that's the 22. That's just draining the reservoir. All right, next step, we just pull the banjo bolts out. They're dripping everywhere. That's fine. Is to get the joints out of the spindles so we can take the rack out completely. If you remember last time, we already have the bolts out of the steering shaft from the steering column to the rack. I'm not going to take that out again until the rack comes out. Then it'll slide off very easily. The bolts are still out of it. So we're going to take the cotter pins out, take the nuts off, and then we'll put a tool on here to pop these out. It gets exciting when they don't want to come out. You'll see. You'll see that. Okay, cotter pins. Cotter pin extractions. There we go. I knew it. I have to say we've been very lucky with this car. Everything is coming off fairly easy, even though it doesn't look like it should. Scary. But we'll take it. Yeah. I wish that happened every day on all the cars we work on. Okay. Ball joint separator. Tie rod separator. It's the same thing. Yes. When this pops, it can kind of shock your hand and it hurts. So I'm just going to keep this in here. And if it gets real tight, I'm just going to walk away and let it do its thing. Sometimes they just pop when you least expect it. Okay. Again, this car's cooperating. I don't know why. Big surprise coming, I'm sure. This tool isn't that good. So, let's see. Alright, this one's going to be a little tougher. Not bad, I hope. Okay, here's where it gets a little scary. We had to stop for a moment. The camera keeps overheating. We're still trying to get some new equipment when we can. But for now, we're stuck with what we've got. Okay, so we're in the process of taking this off, and this is going to be a tight one. I'm just going to stand back because I'm going to let it pop and fall to the ground. I won't say dang it this time because I know it's coming. How are we doing? Is it holding on there? Yeah, it's still on there. Sometimes a little tap can help. Or not. Try it again. Okay, we're in a little bit deeper now. Come on. Bingo. Okay. Gets scary sometimes. We have the one line here. The other line is the low pressure line. By loosening this line, we're letting air in so that can flow. It still should drip here. Maybe you could come over and see what I'm doing here. I just took this line off. And we're going to take the high pressure line with the rack. And that should slide right out of there. Got my trusty broken neck here. Still working. Yep, I see that. Oh, broken neck's getting weak on me. This is just a vent tube. So as the rack goes back and forth, the air from the bellows, when it collapses, can go over to the other side. So it doesn't want to force the boot off or expand the boot with air pressure. It just balances to both sides. So that's just a little plastic hose and little connector pieces. Just in case you're wondering what that is. Come on, broken neck, let's go. Oh, we have a ground wire. Forgot about the ground wire. Okay, we're back again after another little overheating session. What I was explaining is this ground wire. Since the rack is mounted in rubber, all things on your vehicle need to be electrically grounded, so everything is the same ground. So there's no potential ground between this rack and the whole rest of the car. So everything has its own ground, everything is 0 volts. I think some engineer could explain it better than me, but you don't want to have a potential voltage between two components, current flowing through through hoses and connectors and things like that. So they just make sure everything is neutrally grounded. Somebody wants to chime in the comments that knows why they do this more accurately than me, please let us know. So that's it for this. I'm going to pull this off of the shaft, nice and easy. We don't care what position the steering wheel is in because everything's getting rebuilt and new anyways. For you guys changing out a rack, it's important to keep everything perfectly in line when you disassemble. That way it goes back together the same way and the steering wheel is straight and your airbag clock spring doesn't get all twisted up. It's all good. Okay, power steering pump is next. This is an interesting arrangement in here. It has bushings, solid, well, tubes, little tubes for bushings. And sometimes they go missing when they go back together. These are just a bolt in the back and nut in the front, but there's little cylinders that have to come out. We'll show you that. Okay, just standard hardware. All right, I don't know if you won't be able to see this. I'll show you when I get it out. This is supposed to be one spacer. At least I seem to remember that being one spacer. I don't know why there's two small ones. And the front has a spacer. But that's staying inside. Okay. No, the front does not have a spacer. Okay, so the stud goes through the front, and then the spacer's in the back for the rear bolt, and that keeps us pushed forward against the so that for belt alignment. Okay, next we have well, I can take these off. An old broken neck to take these. Okay, those are out of the way. So on the normally aspirated 944s, there's no front oil cooler. The oil cooler is built into the housing on the side here. In the 944 Turbo, they put a plate in place of it, so they still use the connection points for the oil cooler that is mounted on the engine. It's integrated into the engine. So with this adapter plate, it brings the hoses out here, so the cooler is external. The turbo engines run just a little bit warmer. So we need to take this off, or at least get the hoses off of it, and then drop the engine out that way. Let me think. Steering cooler is going to be in the way. So we take that off. Well, let's get the line off the oil cooler and let that drain. There's two lines here. So it looks like 32 and 27. Right the first time. So we're going to, I just put some plugs in these lines so they're not dripping constantly. We're going to take this line with the engine. It's a little more difficult to get to way up there on the oil filter adapter plate, oil cooler adapter plate. So we're going to just take the, well, with the correct size, we're going to take the power steering cooler line off. This is just a little piece of hose from the power steering, a little grill work up here for the power steering, little tube. Back, what comes from the rack returns through here back into the reservoir to help cool the fluid. Every car seems to have one. Okay. Needs a new one anyways. All right. This is clamped down to the cross member. Yeah, right on top. There and there. Okay, we'll do it this way. So there's a bolt and a nut on the bottom. I thought it was threaded. Okay. It's through bolted. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's all it is. This is the line I took off of the steering rack, which comes around and goes right to the cooler. As you can tell, we don't do a lot of engine removals on these, so I don't remember a whole lot. We got to just keep moving. Figure it out. Okay. All right, what do we got? Emission sensor, oil line, coolant hose. Remember this got me last time? Not this time. I just want to get that out of the way, but the clamp is facing up, so we'll do that when we go up. That oil cooler line, I think I'm going to take that off of here also. Well, we don't want to damage the oil cooler. That's really stuck. If I don't do something to heat this or cut this fitting, we're going to end up damaging the oil cooler. So I think we'll try to take it off up here. A little more difficult, but then we'll take the cooler out with it to get it out of the way. So a little change of plan, but I think we can do it. Let's see if I can get this wrench in here. Oh, yeah. Well, that surprised me. It actually loosened right up. But I can't. There we go. Okay, solution. That came off a lot easier than I thought. Okay, get this out of the way like I did the other side. Alright, we dropped a washer, so we'll find that. Alright. The oil cooler is mounted on rubber, and no nut, it's just a welded nut there, I think. See the top, but I can feel it. A little tricky to get in there. Okay, that's the setup on there. I'll have to look in the parts catalog and see if that's correct. The rubber's pretty much gone. There's our cooler. You can see the mounts. This one's pretty mangled, but there's a bushing inside. I didn't see that on the other one, so that must be missing. You can also see that this is bent. This must have gotten hit at one time. You can see this isn't straight. Shouldn't be too difficult to straighten that out, especially with the body shop. That's the coolant. But at least now the hoses are out of the way. What's next here? Exhaust will go with it. I broke these loose already. I might take one out on each side. So when we get it on the table, all we have to do is just take out one. That should work. I also have to take out the control arms and swing them down and out of the way. So why don't I do that first? So we'll take the control arm off of the subframe. The bolts I did loosen were the ones that mount the subframe up to the body. Those I just loosened up, but they're not very tight, not very difficult to take out. These I'm going to put back in when I take them out, when I take the control arm out. These are just 17. Wow. That's a little trick for leverage there. And I'll use broken neck to get those out. All right. All these parts will be inspected. These have ball joint problems, and with the boot ripped here, we'll probably end up just putting new control arms. I'll get these out of the way. Yeah, those should stay out of the way enough so we can drop the whole assembly out. Let's try the other side. This one's not going to cooperate so much. I'll just give it a little push. There we go. I could use a 1/2 inch socket and breaker bar, but I don't have one on my cart right now. So, there we go. Easy enough. Plus I get to show you a little trick. All right, this is our compressor mount. No compressor. Next we're going to go up and we'll get the alternator out. I want to get this coolant hose out of the way. We'll get all the stuff that we left on the engine off and see what we need for the rest of it, and it should come out. I'm gonna take these. I'll leave them in. I was going to take one bolt out on each side, but yeah, maybe I'll do that. I already broke these loose, so that's what I told you before. These. Okay. So now there's only 2 bolts diagonally holding the engine up. All right. Let's see. Put that hose first. That's a 1/4 inch, no, 5/16. That's not a Porsche cone. 8mm works just as good. Hose is in good shape, but we're going to replace all the rubber. All right, there's our steering reservoir. Rusty old magnets on top of the oil filter to keep any metal particles up there. Hopefully there's no metal particles in there. Okay, ignition oil can be out of the way. We're going to take these fuel rail off. 1 second. Well, those are stuck pretty good. Once again, we're going to be replacing all the hoses. Got a lot of work to do on this stuff, and these fuel lines. Okay, what else do we have here? Brake booster vacuum hose.
one-way check valve, so you can store vacuum. This is just a disaster. I'll sort all that out and go together. That can come out with the engine. This is all, well, that's the fan, cooling fan. That's part of the body harness. This is part of the engine harness. The engine harness is going to come with the engine right through here. This. I'm going to go inside the car and push all this through. I want to make sure that the heater hose is disconnected as well. I just don't like this.
Should have done that one a long time ago.
Hoses. Huh? Bonus. Booster. This originally went on the intake manifold. This is part of a vacuum amplifier, which increases the vacuum for the booster. Pretty nice little setup. What else? Throttle cable we don't need. Oh, alternator. Alternator. These are rubber mounts for the idle stabilizer valve. They're broken, so it makes it easy to take this out. So we'll just take that out because it's already broken off anyways, but normally we could just leave all that. All right, here we are back inside the car. You probably haven't seen this in a little while. Remember I mentioned in the last video taking the fans out that the thermal switch has 3 terminals, and that's so it can run through resistors that slow the fans down for normal operation when it doesn't need that high volume of air. This is what's left of those resistors that I was talking about. They're just destroyed. So we're going to have to do some work on this. That's a real mess. These are they're ceramic resistors. The resistor coil is inside of these. They last a long time. They're probably, the resistors themselves are probably still good, but look at that wiring. Wow. So here we are inside with this is the Motronic unit. This runs the ignition. No, I'm sorry. This one runs the fuel injection. The EZK runs the ignition system. So we have to disconnect these two. I believe this does the timing, ignition timing processing, but it's been so long. But anyways, here we go. So these will go out to the front. Don't have to worry about that so much. Wow. Okay. These also, I believe, got filled up with water or battery acid. I have another set of these for him from an 88. Maybe I'll sell them to him for like millions. Yeah. Okay, so that all should come out. Altitude compensator. We'll disconnect that. Corroded really bad. Okay, we'll go back outside and pull all that wiring through the hole in the firewall. What's left of the firewall. All right, here's the, I already pulled that through a little bit. Oh, I forgot to mention, I think I mentioned this before, the signal wire for the ignition control module. That tells the ECU how much pressure is in the intake manifold. That's this. Little banjo fitting screws down on top of it. We'll show you that again. It's better to have 2 people doing this. My assistant is off at another car event somewhere. I think something with Aston Martin this time. I don't know. He's crazy. We need someone inside to push while I pull, but okay, so I got the cameraman to help. That's why you didn't get to see it. But here's the harnesses from the inside. Again, we have a new harness, or a good used harness for this, so we'll save this for the correct wire coloring if we have to do any repair work. So that'll stay out here. That'll go with the engine. This goes with the engine. This is the battery cable, right from the battery, and this is over to the alternator, which we're going to get to next. Let me cut this off. Where are we? This will stay here. Fuel hoses will stay here. This is the ground cable. It'll also stay over here. I'm sure when you remove the engine from your car, you'll be a lot neater than this. This is a little different. Okay, we're just going to take the wiring off the back of the alternator. It's a lot easier because the air shroud is missing. We'll try to locate in one of those. This alternator is air cooled and uses most of them are. We do have some water cooled ones out there. It uses air from an air duct inside the fender well and comes onto the car. It's connected with a hose. I'm sure you've seen it on your car. Now there's the alternator harness. Simple blue wire, that's a D+ wire that goes to the light in the dash, and a battery cable. This is the seal grommet for the cover, the air shroud on the back. Obviously not doing much without the shroud. So this stays with the car. So I can just get up out of here. Vacuum lines. Alright, I'm going to pop the alternator out. Top bolt is already missing a nut. While I was under the car before, I probably should have taken this bolt out, but that's okay. Even though we're going to get this engine out, we're not technically following the workshop manual. I would suggest you do that. Probably put you in the right direction a little quicker than what we're doing, but we're having a little more fun this way, and since everything has to come apart anyways, we're just trying to take stuff off that's sort of in our way but doesn't necessarily have to come off for an engine removal. Plus it makes longer videos. Ooh, look at that. This should be. Oh. Okay, what a mess. Look at that. Yeesh. Almost there. I know I have one more heater hose back there to take off, and I think that's it. I think that's it. This one comes over here. Huh, the heater hoses help keeping it balanced. That's good. Okay. So, timing valve. This went down to the wastegate. All the ground wires. We have the clutch, slave cylinder. We have This connector, what is this? Oh, this is the diagnostic connector. Back at the dealer, we had a machine that you could plug into this little connector over here, and it would read, I don't remember, something with basic timing and the TD signal from the reference sensor, and the reference sensor I told you about before that's a standalone, and that compared the two. So that has to come out. It's just a grommet type. It looks like a relay in an old 911, the socket. Just pretty cool. See? Just like that. It's a relay socket from an old 911. Now in the normally aspirated cars from 85 and a half and on, you can short the two terminals and it puts the car in sort of a standard mode without electronic ignition, electronic idle control. So then you can adjust your base idle using the air bypass and then disconnect the wire and it should be the same. And that's how you get the stabilizer centered for good idle control. And we have one more, I'll get on all that later. And one more connector here that's covered. The more you know. I don't remember what this is for, this connector. But I do know it has to come off. These screws will be sorted and labeled with the body stuff when the rest of the body comes apart with location. This is pretty obvious, so don't have to worry about that. Now, these have to come through. A little tweak. Cut that. Okay, that's pretty much the extent of the rest of the harness. We got battery cables, the two ECU harnesses, and then these connectors here, which I kind of forgot about these, but no biggie. I think that's it. I think we're ready. So let's go back up. We'll get the table situated and see if it's ready. All right, see you underneath. All right, here we are. I think we're ready. I already took the bolts out of the lower radiator support, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. Or at least I think I'm going to. There we go. Now we're open. We don't have to take the handle off our table. Let's see. This is the alternator tube I was talking about. This just comes up in here, and the alternator with the fan on it draws the air through it. So this doesn't need any kind of ram air or anything like that. But it gets fresh air up out of here. And over here, this is where the air intake comes into the air cleaner. It just sticks out of here. The problem with this is if you go through heavy water, big puddles, the water gets shot up around and directly into that intake, air intake. The water with such force it goes through the air filter right to the last cylinder, and it hydrolocks and breaks the connecting rod. I've only seen it on the normally aspirated cars. They said they corrected it. I haven't seen how they did. There might be a little shield up in here, but I haven't seen it much on the turbos, but there's not as many turbos as there are normally aspirated, so it just might be a ratio thing. But be very careful. Don't go through deep water, especially under hard acceleration, because it will suck it in. This table is probably the best way to remove an engine. We use this for the 911s. I think we got this at Northern Tool. I don't remember. I think it was Northern Tool. They're not that expensive for what they do, but they're amazing. For the 911s, we take the handle off and lay the handle down. This we don't have to. I think we have enough room. We'll see. So it's all the way up, almost. Well, that's about it. And can be released here. We're just going to set this on top and see how it balances.
very well.
Wood. Yeah, a little better. Well, I'll take the bolts out and see what happens. Shoot. All right. So most of the force is pushing up on the cross member, holding it to the body. The engine is just still sitting there, doesn't even know what's happening yet. So once we take pressure off, hopefully the back of the car isn't too light now. Okay, there we go. A little light in the back, not too bad. The engine is now free. It's not technically free. Stuff's expensive. But it's sitting pretty nice there. Engine mounts are coming out with the subframe. Everything's clear. Down she goes. Come on out, say hi to everyone. It does look a little like a little diesel engine, doesn't it? All yellow. So take a look around it. You see what we've been working with. You'll see the complete teardown of this engine as well as the rest of the body. The engine we're going to put aside for now because we need to get this body apart. We're still not sure if we're going to put it on a dolly or a rotisserie. I'm hoping rotisserie, but we'll figure that out later. For now, the rest of the body has to come apart, and our electrical, we're going to be showing you the wiring diagrams, a tutorial on that. And the later wiring diagrams, I'm going to go through all the connectors because we have the car here. How to trace out the harnesses, find all the little connectors, pins, wire colors, everything. So that should be a lot of fun. We're still working on that, but that's coming real soon. So like every time, please keep liking the videos and commenting. We love the comments. And subscribe, please subscribe. We need it. We need the help. And there'll be a lot more coming. So thank you very much for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.